Hey guys, and welcome back to part 3 of How I Beat Skyrim Using Every Daedric Artifact. Quick recap, I'm playing as a Dunmer named Drarayne Veloth, who worships every Daedric prince. His goal is to obtain every Daedric artifact in Skyrim, and to use only those artifacts in his adventures. Last time, I ran out of rumors to find any Daedric princes who needed errands done, so I decided to do a little shopping in Jarl Balgruuf's kitchen. While I was there, I realized I still had the dragon stone in my bag, so I finally decided to give it to Farengar. But right as I was about to leave, Irileth barged in and announced that an actual dragon had been sighted near Whiterun. I was even more ready to nope out of there than I was before, but since I was the only survivor of Helgen that anyone knew about in Whiterun, that meant I was the most qualified stranger to investigate a dragon sighting. So I left Dragon's Reach like a normal person would, and followed Irileth to the watchtower, where we had to actually fight a dragon, instead of hiding in a dungeon like last time. However, this time I had the power of the Wabbajack, and I sniped the dragon from my completely safe position on top of the tower. But something strange happened when I got closer to the dead dragon. Its body began to disintegrate, and a light as bright as Meridia's beacon burst forth and struck me straight through my soul. I didn't understand what it meant, and as I was returning to the Jarl, I heard a shout rock the earth and sky. It felt as though that shout was calling for me. When I returned to the Jarl, he explained that the shout came from the Greybeards in High Hrothgar, and that I might be something called the Dragonborn. Now, I wasn't sure what Dragonborn meant, but it sounded suspiciously Daedric. The Jarl told me that I needed to answer their summons, and I agreed. But first, I wanted to see if Hulda had any new rumors for me. Turns out she did, and about the Lady of Whispers herself. I'm sure the Jarl was surprised to see me again so soon, but that didn't stop him from telling me all about his personal problems with his son Nelkir. I walked right into his room, woke him up at 2 a.m. like a normal person would, and asked him if he knew any Daedric princes. Turns out, she had been in the basement this whole time.
At last. I've been waiting for someone more fit to carry out my will.
Her task was simple: unlock the door. And for a master thief such as myself, getting the key was no problem. Once open, I retrieved the Ebony blade, a beautiful and swift weapon. There was just one more thing I needed to do. I needed to restore the blade to its former glory using the blood of the betrayed. And I knew exactly who I was going to use. Now, taking Uthgerd to the ritual stone and exploiting its gifts to kill Uthgerd, resurrect her, and then kill her again might seem like cheating, but Mephala praised my deceitfulness, which means I did absolutely nothing wrong. After that, I grabbed Lydia and began my pilgrimage up the throat of the world. The ice troll near the top was no match for us. I reached the top, where I met a group of old Nord monks. They gave me a quick test, which involved casting voice magic. And then they gave me the worst possible news ever, that I am Dragonborn, a child of Akatosh. I was floored. I didn't know what to think. How could I, the worshipper of every Daedric prince and the champion of 14, be the child of an Aedra? I wandered the wilds for days, aimless, wondering what this could mean for my future. Would the princes still accept me? Why would Akatosh choose me to be Dragonborn instead of a devout Nord? What will happen to me now? Anyways, once I was done with my soul searching, I returned to High Hrothgar, received some training in the way of the voice, and then they sent me off on a final test. Retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. But before I went hunting for the horn, I decided that I needed some heavier armor, specifically the Ebony mail. Sadly, I wasn't powerful enough yet to warrant Boethiah's attention, so I set out to level up. I picked locks, made potions, and I killed many, many people. And at least some of them totally deserved it. At last, I became strong enough that I could journey to the Shrine of Boethiah. When I showed up, I saw two dudes fighting to the death behind the priestess, so I knew this was my kind of place. The priestess told me that in order to get Boethiah's attention, I would need to convince a companion to follow me here and then sacrifice them on the altar. I decided to hit up Morthal to find a new companion. When I arrived, there was a dragon attacking, and I got to show off my amazing dragon slaying skills with a sick kill cam. For some incomprehensible reason, killing a dragon wasn't impressive enough for the local mercenary, so I had to beat him up with my fists, and it definitely was not hard at all. No siree, I definitely did not struggle one bit to beat up a guy after killing a dragon. Not at all. So anyway, after convincing Baynor that I was a competent fighter, he agreed to travel with me on my grand adventures. For our first stop, I told him about a super cool club of hardcore fighters living in the snowy mountains near Windhelm. I told him the initiation was very simple. He just needed to touch a glowing pillar behind the statue of the lady surrounded by snakes. He thought it was weird, but he went for it regardless. And from there, the process went quite smoothly. Boethiah decided to jump scare me by speaking through Baynor's dead body, which was definitely a new one on me.
Tell me, why have you slain this one who trusted you here upon my shrine?
She then gathered all of her followers and announced a contest, a fight to the death, where the last one standing will be her new champion. It was pretty simple. I let the other cultists kill each other off first, and then I killed those who remained. Anyways, Boethiah reanimated another corpse to tell me where my prize, the Ebony mail, was located, still being worn by her former champion. She directed me to the bandit camp where he lived and instructed me to kill everyone there stealthily. However, aside from the first one, all of the bandits had super sensory powers. They heard me coming every single time, and I have no idea how. Maybe Nocturnal decided to curse me with unluckiness for not returning her key. Happily, Boethiah didn't seem to mind at all, and she rewarded me by assuring me a place in her realm, despite my Daedric lineage. And oh my, did I look fine in the Ebony mail. Talk about a major fashion upgrade. The one thing I lacked was an artifact from Hermaeus Mora, but I had no doubt that we would cross paths soon enough. In the meantime, I decided that I might as well go tomb raiding and retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. We finally arrived at the innermost chamber, where, to my complete surprise and consternation, there was no horn. Instead, there was only a note from someone claiming to be my friend and needing to meet me at Riverwood. Imagine the sheer audacity required not only to steal an artifact that you were planning to steal yourself, but to also refuse to kill any of the enemies along the way. Some friend. A real friend would watch you worship Namira without judging you. So I journeyed back to Riverwood, asked for the attic room, which doesn't exist by the way, and took a 13-hour nap like a normal person would. Delphine evidently had decided to wait in my room for me to wake up, where she revealed that she was my supposed friend and took me to her super secret basement, which was honestly really cool. We had a completely normal conversation where we insulted and yelled at each other before going on an epic road trip to slay a dragon that Alduin resurrected before our very eyes. and once again I slew the beast with an awesome kill cam. Check out these sick moves. Delphine was suitably impressed and paid me with information about who she was and what she knew. Her working theory was that the Thalmor were behind the dragon resurrections, which didn't make any sense because Alduin didn't seem like the kind of person to take orders from elves. She needed some time to plot away inside the Thalmor embassy, so I made the trek back to the Greybeards to give them the horn and get anointed by their voices. When I came back to Delphine's awesome basement, she revealed that she had an ingenious plan. She was going to pass me off as an important Skyrim citizen and get me into a fancy party at the embassy. She sent me to her friend Malborn so he could smuggle my gear into the embassy. So I basically ended up passing Malborn the equivalent of my soul in Daedric artifacts and about 25 pounds of food in the middle of a crowded tavern. I really hope he didn't recognize some of those artifacts. Then Delphine gave me a disguise, which was literally just a brown jacket and boots. Oh yes, I really look like an important official on my way to a political party, not at all like a chaos gremlin who eats raw meat and cheese wheels that they found in a tomb. At the party, I met a fine gentleman named Razalin, who agreed to make a distraction for me in exchange for a bottle of brandy. If I ever see him again, I must remember to take him to Sanguine's party. Anyways, Malborn took me to the back, returned my smuggled gear, and then I wreaked havoc on the Thalmor. They tried to overpower me with their grandiose catchphrases, but I just kept whacking them with the ebony blade until they perished. Gotta say, I had a great time at that party. I killed some Thalmor, stole classified intelligence, rescued a fellow thief, and escaped through the basement. A solid 7 out of 10. I returned to Delphine with the Thalmor dossier, which evidently contained information about an old friend of hers named Esbern hiding in Riften. She warned me that he was super paranoid and likely wouldn't trust me. Anyways, once I arrived in Riften, it took me all of 3 minutes to find him in the Ratway, and even less time to convince him to trust me. I brought him back to the secret clubhouse, and then we immediately turned around to hit up the Skyhaven Temple. Inside the temple, Esbern explained the carvings on Alduin's wall and said the ancient warriors used a shout to defeat Alduin. So I went back to the Greybeards, but it turns out that they didn't know the shout I needed. After some minor debate, they decided to send me to the very top of the mountain to meet the head of their order, Paarthurnax. His name sounded suspiciously like a dragon name, but I went anyway. When I reached the summit, a dragon descended from the sky. But unlike every other dragon I had ever encountered, this one greeted me civilly and introduced himself as Paarthurnax. He tried to quiz me on why I wanted to stop Alduin. He didn't like my answers.
Do you have no better reason for acting than destiny? Are you nothing but a plaything of Des, of fate?
Honestly, leave it to an ageless child to seek honorable heroes instead of whatever I am. Eventually, he told me that the shout I needed only existed in the past, so I needed to find an Elder Scroll and create a time portal with it. I chose to hit up the College of Winterhold to see if they had a scroll lying around. The librarian was not impressed with me. He did, however, direct me to the ice cave of Septimus Cygnus, a madman who studied Elder Scrolls. He shared some fascinating insights with me, but then he told me I had to go dungeon crawling through some Dwemer ruins to find a scroll. I was not pleased. That is, until I finally entered Blackreach. It was beautiful. Not even the Telvanni could imagine such a magical place. Then Aola and I entered one of the structures, button smashed until I got the password right, and retrieved the scroll. I also inscribed the lexicon that Septimus gave me while we were there. I returned to Septimus, and to my great delight, he revealed that he was a worshipper of Hermaeus Mora. He just needed me to collect some elven blood so he could open the giant Dwemer box in his room for the prince. Just as I was about to leave, I was greeted by the wretched Abyss himself, Hermaeus Mora.
Come closer. Bask in my presence.
Anyway, his special errand was to help Septimus open his box. Simple enough. I killed many elves for their blood. I even broke back into the Thalmor embassy for that elusive Outmer blood. I took the blood back to Septimus. He injected it into himself for some reason, opened the box, and found a book. Unfortunately, the knowledge within was too powerful for his mortal mind, and he disintegrated into dust. I picked up the book, and I did it! I got the Oblivion Walker achievement! I now owe my soul to every prince, except Jiglag. As I was leaving with the book, Hermaeus Mora appeared once again to declare me his champion. Then I opened the book, which looked uncomfortably like skin, and the sea of knowledge rolled before me. I chose the Path of Might because I figured that would be the most helpful for defeating Alduin. Speaking of Alduin, yeah, I guess I should get to that, huh? I took the Elder Scroll back to the Time Wind, time-traveled back to the war with Alduin, and learned a shout to make Alduin experience the cosmic horror of death. Unfortunately, when I returned to the present time, I accidentally brought back a hitchhiker. I definitely did not accidentally hit Paarthurnax with Dragonrend, and I absolutely did not struggle to hit Alduin. Anyway, I defeated Alduin, but then he whined about the youngest sibling beating him up, and he flew away like a little baby. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Long story short, Paarthurnax told me I needed to capture one of Alduin's allies. I asked Jarl Balgruuf if I could borrow his dragon trapping machine, and he told me I needed to end the civil war, but actually ending the war would have taken too long, so I asked the Greybeards if they could hold a peace conference to declare a truce, and Arngeir whined and complained about the entire time, even though he's part of an order dedicated to peace. And then Arngeir made me, a chaos gremlin who eats raw meat of all sorts, make major political decisions that will affect the course of Skyrim's fate for months, and maybe even years to come. Other notable highlights include Delphine Esbern showing up uninvited, Elenwen getting kicked out after the first 5 seconds of the meeting, and Rika almost throwing hands with the Jarl of Windhelm. 5 out of 10 party could have had more violence. With all that rigmarole done with, I returned to Whiterun and challenged one of Alduin's allies, Odahviing, to a showdown. It wasn't much of a fight. Anyway, I told him that I needed to hurry up and beat Alduin so I could get back to worshipping the Daedra in peace. And that's when he gave me the most amazing offer in the history of amazing offers. He agreed to fly me to Skuldafn, Alduin's special entrance to Nordheaven. It was awesome. Skuldafn was crawling with Draugr, dragons, and picture-based puzzles, so it took me a little longer than usual to clear it. But once I jumped into the portal, I was teleported to the beautiful twilight world of Sovngarde, Nordheaven. The air was filled with the sound of many voices chanting. The sky swirled with stars and prismatic colors of every hue. I arrived at the Whalebone Bridge, which was guarded by an absolute unit. He told me I could access the Hall of Valor, but only if I proved my worth in battle. Turns out, Sun doesn't like Daedra worshippers. Regardless, I somehow managed to impress him enough to let me in. Within those bright halls, I found all sorts of delicious foods. I also found the 3 warriors from my time travel dream, and together we raced forth to fight the final battle against Alduin. And honestly, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't the most epic thing I've ever done. After I struck the final blow, Alduin straight up exploded. But I didn't absorb his soul. Instead, it was sucked into the sky, where I suppose Akatosh was. Sun then returned me to the mortal world, saying that he would like to greet me at the Hall of Valor when I died for real. But I doubt I'll ever come back here. Princes have probably already set up a timeshare deal for my soul, and I'm personally looking forward to Moonshadow, the realm of Azura. Back in the mortal world, I listened to the dragons perform some kind of elegy, though I did not know most of the words. Paarthurnax expressed his grief to me because Alduin was his brother, but he told me,
Savor your triumph, Dovahkiin. This is not the last of what you will write upon the currents of time.
And then he flew away. And after he was gone, I felt a strange emptiness inside, as if there was nothing left for me to do and nowhere left for me to go. Even though Paarthurnax said that I would perform many more great deeds, I suddenly felt as though the world had grown cold and hollow. I took a trip back to the ruins of Helgen, where it all began. Then I visited an old friend, the priestess of Azura. She understood how I felt. And at long last, I returned to Whiterun and decided to get dinner at the Bannered Mare. And as I sat by the fire and listened to the same old gossip and the music from the bard, I finally dared to let myself consider my future. Perhaps I would take up mercenary work. Perhaps I would settle down and adopt a child. My destiny was fulfilled. The future was mine for the taking.